Yo, welcome back to Into the Pit. I'm Hellhound.
I'm Dr. Gutts.
And today we're going to talk about some of our favorite bands, metal bands that we love, and we're going to discuss their weakest albums, the worst respective studio release from each band. And now, some of these albums really suck, and they're terrible. Other albums are just like, technically their weakest.
Yeah.
They're still good, but they're just not as good as the rest. So yeah, there's a difference between ones that are no good and others that are good, just not quite up to their standard. And so, yeah, first, let's just get it out of the way. Let's get out of the obvious Saint Anger by Metallica. Okay, we've already talked about that album to death. It's been done ad nauseum.
Yeah.
It's legendarily bad. I don't even think we need to explain why. Saint Anger. Enough said.
Also, Load and Reload.
Yeah.
Essentially equally as bad, to be honest with you. None of them are
Especially
listenable.
Reload.
Yeah, none of them are listenable in my opinion.
I agree.
But Saint Anger is especially so.
Oh, yeah, Saint Anger is just like... It's almost hard to make an album that terrible.
Yeah,
like, you have to really try.
They worked for that one.
Yeah,
They worked for that one for
like,
sure.
Wow, that was just like Limp Bizkit worthy.
Absolutely. So, in order to give a little bit of context of what we're talking about, Saint Anger, legendarily bad. Terrible album. But
God
then,
awful.
also, we have albums like Low by Testament.
Which isn't terrible. It's not unlistenable, but it's definitely not up to the par with the other stuff. It is probably the low point in their career, but there's certain songs I like. I kind of like the title track. I really like Trail of Tears.
Trail of Tears is good.
That's a good song. It was one of the 3 albums that didn't have Alex Skolnick on it, and he's
Yeah.
my favorite thrash guitarist, and he's a huge part of what Testament is so great.
He's a big part of their songwriting in general,
is.
and it really showed when it wasn't there. You can really tell. This album is no practice what you preach. Let's just be realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not a bad album. I don't really listen to it almost ever, but I'll pop on Trail of Tears every once in a while. It's a pretty good song.
It's definitely the weakest out of those 3 albums that Alex Skolnick wasn't on. And Chuck Billy's my second favorite thrash vocalist next to Joey Belladonna from Anthrax. And he still gives a good performance. He has kind of a more of a death metal tone to his voice during that era, and I think it really fit. So it's not his fault. I don't blame him. I think it just wasn't as inspired as
I
some
love
of the
Chuck
other
Billy.
ones.
Chuck Billy's one of
He's
my favorite
awesome.
of all time.
Yeah, me too. As I
They're
said, my second
frontman of
favorite
all time.
thrash vocalist. Then we have like albums like Risk by Megadeth, which are right up there with among the worst.
Also, it's hard for me to place which is worse, Risk or Super Collider.
Yeah.
Those are some piss poor albums.
I feel like Super Collider is a little more recent. Like we've had more time to like really analyze why Risk is bad. What a perfect name for an album too. They really took a risk,
and became trash.
Yeah,
and Super Collider is just as bad. That's a terrible album.
Yeah, it's awful.
And I'm not saying that like modern Megadeth sucks, because not necessarily. I think Endgame was a fantastic album.
13 and Dystopia are pretty good too.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're okay albums. But Endgame I think was a really, really exceptionally good album. Honestly, I really, really enjoyed that. So it's not just like new stuff's bad, but these albums in particular are bad albums.
I kind of enjoyed United Abominations a lot.
I like United Abominations.
And I'm one of the few that really liked A System Has Failed. I know it kind of doesn't feel like a Megadeth album. It kind of feels like more like a Dave Mustaine solo album, because he didn't even have like, he just had like a studio, he like had session members during that recording, but there's some really good songs on it, like I think was it Scorpion, is that on there?
I don't
Set the
know
World Afire. I don't really either, but I just don't think it's as bad as everybody says. But I think we could agree Risk is definitely the low point with Super Collider.
Yeah, right. It's edging its way there. Give us a few more years to really sulk in that one, and
it might be even worse.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Then we've when it comes to Black Sabbath, okay, Black Sabbath is my favorite band, and I know they have so many distinct eras. My favorite being the Ozzy years and the Dio years, and I also really love Tony Martin. He's a very powerful singer. He's very underrated, very neglected and kind of overlooked. Most people think of the Ozzy and Dio era. Some people even limit themselves to just the Ozzy era. But I'm just going to go with the Ozzy CDs, the 8 CDs he did before he left and was replaced by Dio. And I'll say that Technical Ecstasy is my least favorite. Now, that was Never Say Die was the last album they did with Ozzy. And I think that was a little bit of an improvement from Technical Ecstasy. It was a little bit of a step up. Now, both those albums are definitely Black Sabbath's weak point. They don't sound like Black Sabbath anymore. They're not as doomy or as eerie. So replacing Ozzy with Dio is definitely the right thing to do, because Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules are amazing.
Incredible albums.
Yeah, and like
Heaven and Hell is my favorite album by Black Sabbath.
I can certainly see that.
I know a lot of people like the Ozzy era better, which I definitely see, but Heaven and Hell is so good.
It's almost a tie for me. I like Ozzy and Dio. They're so different and so great
in
their own ways.
They're definitely different. They're definitely both amazing.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned Technical Ecstasy, I was like, what's that? Like,
yeah.
I forgot that album existed.
Yeah.
And I like Black Sabbath a lot. I forgot that even existed.
Well, the thing is, both Technical Ecstasy and Never Say Die both have a few good songs on them, and like if you could only like take all the good songs from both albums and combine them, put them on one album, and then just throw all the crappy songs away, all the filler, you'd have a passable, tolerable album. It's still not as great as their, is like Paranoid or Master Reality, Sabotage, or Heaven and Hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely their weak point, and it was definitely the right thing to do to change the lineup after that, because they kind of gotten passe by that point. They kind of ran out of ideas. So I'll go with Technical Ecstasy as my least favorite album from my favorite band of all time.
Yeah, and then another band that has some vocalist switch ups, and that's what we're going to talk about. Actually, would be Anthrax. Anything John Bush era, I'm not a fan of. I know there's some people who it has its place. People like it. Some people like it. I do not like John Bush era Anthrax at all.
No,
it doesn't do it for me.
John Bush has its fans. Like the thing is, the John Bush era, it might be good, but it's not Anthrax, and it's not thrash metal. It sounds like a watered down, generic, alternative, grungy, groove metal Pantera wannabe. And John Bush has, like, no range. He can only do one voice. I like his work in Armored Saint, and I can kind of tolerate Sound of White Noise, though not as an Anthrax record. But Joey Belladonna was so much better. He had those powerful high notes. He really belted it out. He's my favorite thrash singer of all time. Anthrax really didn't know what they had. With Scott Ian, like, Belladonna made certain songs that were less than impressive better than they actually were. And I think he saved certain albums from being kind of, not that remarkable, and he was incredible.
Of his vocal performance,
yeah, he's so amazing, good. And like he's not even really a metal person. Like he was kind of more into classical music, and his voice is kind of similar from Steve Perry. There's not a lot of thrash bands who have like a singer like Halford or Dickinson. Most of them are just kind of aggressive, kind of more sloppy, more off-key vocals. But Belladonna is an amazing singer. I think he's very underrated. And I like Neil Turbin as well. And so I feel like it was kind of a betrayal when they got somebody like John Bush, because then they just sounded like every other '90s band. And I know John Bush. He is talented, but I think he's not a good fit for Anthrax at all. And I'll say that those 4 albums they did are not Anthrax. Sound of White Noise, as I said, is tolerable, but Stomp 442 and Volume 8 are just unlistenable in my opinion. I think they're terrible. I think We've Come for You All was slightly an improvement, but the two in the middle, like the 2 middle John Bush albums, I think are just terrible and definitely the worst Anthrax albums by far.
But they got
from
Keanu
a metal
Reeves
point
in
of
the video.
view. Oh, there you go.
That
redeems it.
Keanu Reeves in a music video.
Keanu Reeves.
But something else here. I just want to mention this. Massacre, right? We all love Massacre.
From Beyond is a
From
great
Beyond,
album.
so good. They released an album called Promise. That's all I'm going to say. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'm not going to talk about it. Anyways, Carcass.
Cam Lee, Rick Ross, Terry Butler, they're all legends. But yeah, Promise.
So, Carcass. Carcass is incredible. Carcass are the forefathers of gore grind, one of the forefathers of death metal, one of the forefathers of melodic death metal. Carcass has done it all. Something else they attempted to do in the 90s was Death and Roll with Swan Song. It didn't work.
Entombed did the same thing.
Not a fan. I'm not a fan of Swan Song. Every other Carcass album I love, from Reek all the way up to.
I even like Heartwork. I think it's kind of underrated.
Well. Yeah, I think Heartwork's a good
Swan
album.
Song was definitely
Swan
their
Song
weakest
is not
by
good.
far.
Swan Song is terrible.
That doesn't sound like Carcass to me.
I'm really glad they came back and kind of redeemed their old
Surgical
sound.
Steel was a return to form.
I love Surgical Steel. I think it's one of the finest albums to come out in the last 10 years or so. I think it's incredible. Swan Song wasn't good. It was very generic sounding.
Yeah.
It didn't really offer anything. That's the thing. Carcass has always been such a forward-thinking band, and Swan Song was literally just there. It existed. That was it. It didn't really do anything. It didn't push the envelope in any direction besides into the trash can because it was bad.
Right in the trash. I expect way better from Bill Steer and Jeff Walker because they're very talented.
They're phenomenal.
Better than that. And I'm glad a lot of these bands seem to learn their lesson. Like in the 90s, they put out some crap, but now they're kind of back to the way they were. Certain bands didn't ever come back, unfortunately. And speaking of Entombed, they're doing the Queensryche thing where they got 2 different incarnations or whatever with different members, and it's just so confusing. It's so hard to keep with their lineup.
They put out 2 of the greatest albums ever in death metal, called Clandestine and Left Hand Path, and then they went on Death and Roll, and
I can tolerate Wolverine Blues a little bit, like as a different band.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say like everything after that was just It's hard to pick their weakest because there's so many, and it's unfortunate because like as you said, Left Hand Path and Clandestine were masterpieces of the death metal genre, and it's really sad to see how far they've fallen.
And speaking of Queensryche,
American Soldier. Wow, it is hard to believe that, like, I mean, we compare Kill 'Em All from Metallica to Saint Anger. There's a huge drop in quality. But with Queensryche, listen to the song Queen of the Reich from their self-titled AP. It was one of the first songs they wrote. It is incredible. When I first heard that song, it was the coolest thing I ever heard. It was thrashy, it was fast and heavy, but then it had vocals that are, Dickinson and Halford worthy. Jeff Tate is my fourth favorite metal singer of all time. He's incredible. Those high notes are breathtaking. And when you compare that to American Soldier, I kid you not, American Soldier is Limp Bizkit worthy. Yes, it's that bad.
It's called American Soldier. Like that's a bad title for an album.
When I listened to that album, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, "Is this a joke?"
Operation Mindcrime?
Like, yeah.
American Soldier.
Yeah.
It's like even the title drop is a drop.
Yeah, compare it to Operation Mindcrime or Empire or The Warning or Rage for Order. American Soldier is a dud. Yeah, it's terrible. And then another one of my favorite bands, my second favorite band actually, next to Sabbath, is Judas Priest. And while I don't think they ever really put out a terrible album, Turbo was definitely their low point of the Halford era. It was kind of more of a poppy, more radio-friendly commercial album that, like, they wanted to have mainstream sounding hits, like radio hits, and I don't hate it. Every time Turbo Lover comes on my radio, I still kind of jam out to it. I still say it's kind of like a guilty pleasure. I don't think it's terrible, but it's definitely their weakest, and they definitely could do better than that.
Turbo's the album that everybody kind of goes to as like the Priest album that they're not fans of, and I mean, good reason. It's not a great album, to be honest.
Yeah.
It could be worse. It could be Saint Anger, but it's not. It's Turbo, and
Yeah, but I think their actual weakest is Demolition. Now, when they got Tim Owens, he's a fantastic singer. Tim Owens is phenomenal. He has a great voice, but I don't care who they got. They could have got Freddie Mercury somehow. You can't replace Rob Halford. He's too iconic. He's the metal master. It's like when they replaced Dickinson with Blaze Bayley, which we'll get to in a moment. But I thought the Jugulator... Yeah, exactly. I thought Jugulator, which is the first album with Tim Owens after Halford left after Painkiller, was actually a pretty good album. It had some good songs on it. There was even one song, Bloodstain, I think, that was on the Bride of Chucky soundtrack, and I love that song. I didn't even know it was Judas Priest for years. I think Jugulator was really good. Now, Tim Owens is a great singer, but I don't think he was as good of a songwriter as Halford. He could emulate Halford's style pretty well, and he was definitely inspired of him. But Demolition was the next album with Tim Owens, and it really wasn't good. I'd say that's easily Judas Priest's worst album. Jugulator is better, but again, as I said, it's just not the same having anybody other than Halford sing for Judas Priest. And,
it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, the fact that they don't have KK Downey anymore is bad enough. But they replaced him with some guy named Richie Faulkner. But Rob Halford is truly irreplaceable. He's the reason why I love Judas Priest so much. As important as KK Downey and Glenn Tipton are, and they are, they're probably my favorite guitar duo in metal. Halford's really what seals the deal for me. And having somebody else just wasn't the same. And Demolition is my least favorite for that reason. Yeah. And so, back to Blaze Bayley from Iron Maiden.
Speaking of...
Virtual 10 and the 11 factor, or is it Virtual 10 and or is it Virtual 11 and the 10 factor? The X Factor and Virtual 11. I don't know. I don't care. Those albums are terrible. Now, Judas Priest, they got rid of Halford, which was bad, but at least they got a capable singer in Tim Owens. Yeah. Tim Owens was a good singer. He could sing those Halford songs pretty well. Blaze Bayley was not a good replacement for Bruce Dickinson, or even Paul Di'Anno for that matter.
Yeah, I was going to say, say Bruce Dickinson not being in the band sucks, right?
Yeah, that's bad enough.
But Iron Maiden has shown that they can be a good band without him, right? You got Paul Di'Anno and stuff like that, right? Blaze Bayley's not a good fit for this band.
That's like adding insult to injury. Get rid of Dickinson, strike one. Blaze Bayley, that's strike 2 and 3. That's just a bad idea.
That's rough.
The 10, the X Factor and Virtual 11, whatever they're called, hideous album covers too. They're right up there with Dance of Death. Maiden has the best album covers in all of heavy metal. This is probably for another video, but I just got to mention it real quick. They have the best album covers, period. That's not even my opinion. It's factual that Iron Man is the best album covers, and those were just terrible. And it's a perfect physical representation of what you're going to hear. I don't know which one's worse. Take your pick. There might be a few good songs here and there, but it's not Iron Maiden to me.
If you know the name,
and it doesn't belong.
Don't let us know in the comments below. It doesn't matter.
We don't care.
So,
yeah.
Reinventing the Steel.
Yeah, that's Pantera's weakest, for sure.
Pantera is such a good band. I love Pantera, and I'm not talking about Glamterra. That doesn't count. I'm talking
Terry
about,
Glaze.
I'm talking about actual Pantera.
I'm Diamond Daryl, lead guitar. I'm Rex Rocker. Look at my glitter.
Yeah, Rex Rocker.
And Vinnie Paul's just like, I hate this.
I'm Vinnie Paul.
Yeah,
I'm Vinnie Paul from Hell Yeah. He said that in the '80s. I'm Vinnie Paul from Hell Yeah.
I'm already groove metal.
But,
these guys are still glam metal.
Anyways,
I'm already ready for Cowboys now.
I love Pantera. I genuinely do. One of my all-time favorite bands, hands down. I love Pantera. I do not love Reinventing the Steel. No. It's not a good album. There's a couple good songs.
GD Electric was okay.
Yeah, that's not a bad song. Like, there's a couple, but the album is generic as all hell. It's not what I look for Pantera. Pantera, another one of those bands, they push the envelope every time. Yeah. Every time we're going to get something really intense, you're going to get something new or something fresh, but something that feels Pantera. This kind of feels Pantera, definitely doesn't feel fresh. It's very generic. It's not memorable.
It's not really one of those albums where the band lost their identity, didn't find themselves. It still sounds like Pantera, but it just sounds like watered down, lesser Pantera. And Cowboys from Hell and Vulgar Display of Power were such great albums. And I feel like Pantera is one of those bands that's becoming underrated by the metalhead community. Yeah. A lot of people criticize them only because they inspired a lot of crappy bands, which they did. But that's not their fault. It's like blaming Scream for starting the trend of watered down diet horror, or blaming Blair Witch Project for all the recent slew of crappy found footage movies. It's not their fault.
When those were groundbreaking good films,
they were inspirational.
And Pantera was a groundbreaking good band that happened to inspire some junk. Yeah. Right? But neither here nor there. Reinventing the Steel, meh.
Dimebag Darrell, as we all know, is still a genius in guitar. He's still legendary. Phil Anselmo's a great frontman.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great vocals on
Phil
Cowboys
Anselmo.
from Hell.
Be it Pantera, Down, Super Joint Ritual. I love Phil Anselmo.
And he played guitar for Necrophagia under the pseudonym Anton Crowley. And he's actually a pretty good guitarist as well. He always uses a pseudonym when he plays guitar, but he's actually pretty good. Not as good as Dimebag, of course, but he's actually a very accomplished instrumentalist as well. In addition to being a great vocalist, a very hardcore, tough growl. He talks like he sings too.
Absolutely.
When you hear him in interviews, it's like, yeah, we formed the band and we were glam metal, and and then we got tougher.
Phil Anselmo. Speaking of tough guys,
he's awesome.
Rob Dukes fronted Exodus. Let me tell you.
Shovel-Headed Kill Machine was actually pretty decent.
Shovel-Headed Kill Machine is a fantastic record. Front to back, it is intense. It's still thrash. It's what you look for in Exodus. Just happens to have a different singer, which is fine. I prefer Zetro, or having Bailoff is nice. For
sure.
But if you have another singer, if you have to, that's fine. Still give me Exodus. Shovel-Headed did that. Neither Atrocity Exhibition A or B did that for
Especially
me.
B.
Yeah. They both have one or two good songs.
I like Funeral Hymn and Children of a Worthless God. I know everybody else hates them, but I thought they were kind of catchy.
I like those two songs as well.
They didn't really sound like Exodus, but they're okay. And the thing is, I don't hate Rob Dukes. I don't think he's a terrible vocalist. He is a little bit too reminiscent of every new metal and metalcore vocalist with a tough guy
very
thing
generic.
that Phil Anselmo already did 10 years before. Yeah. He's very generic. He's not very fresh or original. He doesn't really have a wide range. And Paul Bailoff and Steve Zetro Souza were so classic. And when you think of Exodus, you think of one of them. Yeah. And of course Rob Dukes was the newcomer. He was the new guy. And a lot of people hated him for that reason. I personally don't. But it definitely wasn't the same, and they definitely could have done better than that. And I am glad that overall that they got Zetro back for sure. It was the right thing to do. It was just like Anthrax getting Belladonna back. It was definitely the right thing to do.
Yeah,
Dukes wasn't really a
Exhibit B. I do like Class Dismissed. That's the song with the school shooting. I think that's a really good song.
Ballad of Winter and Charles, I think, is okay.
Yeah, and Downfall's a good song. It's got a really nice guitar lead at the beginning. Besides that, it's forgettable, honestly.
It's not Exodus.
These are two, they're not... Alright, so I can say they're both not bad albums. They're both wholly forgettable albums.
Yeah, they're not good Exodus albums.
This...
Blood In, Blood Out was a huge improvement.
I think...
a step up.
I will go out on the record and say Blood In, Blood Out might be my favorite or second favorite Exodus album of all time. I really like it. It's a return to form. It feels like Exodus. And not only is it a return to form, it's a return to excellent form. And it is top-notch, 10 out of 10 good album.
It's probably my top 5.
I like everything about the album. It's phenomenal.
I don't know if it could beat Bonded by Blood or Pleasures of the Flesh or Fabulous Disaster or Tempo of the Damned.
For me, it'd be like...
pretty damn good.
Like Bonded by Blood, Fabulous Disaster, then probably Blood In, Blood Out. But
definitely a great reunion sort of album.
Absolutely.
They got the, back. All right, so Merciful Fate, which I already mentioned my first 3 favorite bands, Sabbath, Priest, and Maiden. Merciful Fate has been my 4th favorite band for a long time, and I worship King Diamond. I idolize this man. He is incredible. I feel like he's just everything metal should be. He needs to direct a horror movie. He's a great frontman, a great singer, great storyteller, great songwriter. This man is he's like probably my number 1 hero. He may not be like
I love King Diamond.
He's my
so
5th
much.
favorite vocalist. Next to Halford, Dickinson, Dio, and Jeff Tate. But I feel like I kind of idolize him more than them. He's like one of my number 1 metal heroes. And I think that Merciful Fate doesn't have a terrible album. They don't have one bad.
So.
But I would say Dead Again, it probably is their weakest. A lot of people would say 9, which I highly disagree with. I think 9 is excellent. I think it's very underrated. So many great songs in a row. I mean, we have Insane and Burn in Hell and The Grave and so many great songs. And of course, it's not as good as Melissa or Don't Break the Oath. And I don't expect anything to be that good.
How many bands have done songs called Burn in Hell?
A lot.
That's
Twisted Sister.
That has to be the most popular song
did
title
it cover
of
that?
all time.
It really is.
Anyways.
But yeah, Dead Again's probably their weakest from Merciful Fate. And if I had to pick a weakest from King Diamond, I don't really think any of them are bad. But if I had to choose one, I'd go with Give Me Your Soul, Please, only because I thought that it wasn't nearly as good as their previous material. It's no Abigail, Them, or Conspiracy for sure.
The title track was fantastic.
And I kind of like Never Ending Hill.
Yeah, I love the title track. I thought the title track was really good, but the whole album overall isn't as memorable as other things.
It doesn't blow me away like King Diamond should.
In my opinion, Them is one of the finest albums ever written. It's so good. It tells us a fantastic story. The musicianship is there. The vocals are there. Everything's there. Give Me Your Soul, Please isn't that. Like I said, it's not a bad album. It's not a bad album by any stretch of the imagination.
I feel like the story...
It's not a great album.
Yeah, I feel like the story of the album, they're all concept albums, it's King Diamond. I feel like the story was kind of uninspired and wasn't his most creative.
Yeah,
and
some ghosts.
Yeah, and the lyric, he's running around a mansion kind of getting scared. It wasn't, compare that to the storyline of Abigail, or as you said, Them, or Conspiracy, or Voodoo, or Graveyard, Abigail 2, Puppet Master. Puppet Master was the album before that. And
Puppet Master is probably my favorite story of the albums.
It is
but not my favorite. It's probably my second favorite album by
King Diamond. And Give Your Soul Please was kind of a letdown after Puppet Master. Yeah. Again, it's not a terrible album, but if I had to pick a worst one that's their weakest, it would definitely be Give Your Soul Please, which could have been a lot better.
So, this next album we're going to talk about, this one's a doozy.
Yeah.
Alright, and if you're a fan of extreme metal, if you're a fan of death metal, you know where we're going to go when we say Cannibal Corpse, and we're going to have to talk about Evisceration Plague. Kill Part 2.
Kill Part 2, but not as good.
Yeah, and Kill wasn't even very good.
Yeah, it wasn't even that good, so that's pretty bad.
If Kill's a 5 out of 10, this is a solid 3, maybe.
They made the same album again, but with less inspired, way more filler. Beware of filler. That's what I think of.
The whole album is a filler, in my opinion. The entire album literally is a filler, and I don't understand because... before this, they've put out some good stuff.
Yeah,
After this, they've put out some good stuff.
Torture and Skeletal Domain.
Skeletal Domain's
huge,
really heavy. Torture is Torture is my favorite Cannibal Corpse album from the Corpse Grinder era. Not from the.
It's definitely up there with.
It doesn't touch Barnes era.
It's up there with Gore Obsessed and Wretched Spawn for me.
Wretched Spawn's really good as well.
Tomb of the Mutilated is probably my favorite overall, even though I do prefer Fisher to Barnes. I'm not going to get into that again because I've done it I've explained it
we've already talked about this. I prefer Barnes, and Barnes era is my favorite.
Long story. See our Cannibal Corpse video for more info.
But of Corpse Grinder, Torture is my favorite. Evisceration Plague is my least favorite. That's a rough album.
Time. Yeah,
and another titan of death metal has put out a lot of incredible records and has put out some crap would be Deicide. And I'll just let you talk about
Till Death Do Us Part. Now the thing is, they actually had 2 other albums. I think In Darkness, In Hell was the name of one of them, and then Incinerate him, incinerate, hate. I don't know. I don't care enough to look it up or pronounce it right. Those albums were like so bad that I heard that one of them was taken off the shelves and it wasn't in stores anymore. It was that bad. I don't know too much about those albums, so I'm not going to go into detail. But I will say, Till Death Do Us Part, of the albums that I know of, that's probably the worst. I mean, God, we had self-titled, then Legion, then Once Upon the Cross, which were incredible, and I really liked Stints of Redemption too. I thought that was okay,
Absolutely.
and I thought Scars of the Crucifix is pretty good too. A lot of people hate on all new Deicide, say, "Oh, only the first two albums are good." I disagree. I think they have other good material, but Till Death To Us Part is not one of them.
Yeah, To Hell with God is really good.
It was definitely an improvement.
Within the Minds of Evil, I like that.
Yeah.
Till Death Do Us Part's bad. It's super generic, and it is the definition of an uninspired album.
A lot of people think that all their new material bad, and Glenn Benton isn't like what he once was, but I actually think they do still have potential, and I expect better from the likes of Glenn Benton and Steve Ashheim and whoever the guitarist or revolving door guitarists are.
It's always something.
They had Jack Owen at one point, but now he's with 6 Feet Under, so he's back with Chris Barnes. So do with that what you will.
Figure that out. So an album that I really want to talk about is by a band that I love. They're one of the bands that really got me into more extreme metal, and that'd be Children of Bodom. I actually love Children of Bodom from literally the beginning until now. I love all of their albums except for one in particular. Relentless Reckless Forever is a terrible, terrible, terrible entry into Children of Bodom's masterful catalog. Children of Bodom is a band that's known for their technicality, their musicality, their classical influence, their speed, their precision, and their aggression. This album had none of that. It literally was a pile of industrial garbage. I don't understand why they even created this album. I don't understand how it's considered a Children of Bodom album. It doesn't sound like anything they've ever done in the worst way possible. I don't get it. I don't understand. Like, my hate for this album is so intense, and which is ridiculous because I was like, oh man, Children of Bodom sucks now. But then they came back and put out 2 incredible albums back to back recently, like incredible albums. I don't know. This came out of left field. I don't see how you can make so many good albums then put out this pile of junk. I don't get it.
I'll be sure to avoid that one.
I don't get it.
I've never really been big on Children of Bodom. I do like them, and when I listen to them, I do think it's good. I know Alexi Leo is very talented, but I've never really been like a huge fan. Again, they are good. It's probably something I should check out, but I'll definitely be sure to skip that.
You definitely
out
should.
I
am a huge fan. I've been a huge fan for a really long time.
They are good.
And I love Children of Bodom. This album, I don't even know what to say about it. If you hear any song on this album, you wouldn't even recognize it being Children of Bodom. I don't know what even happened there. And speaking of heaping piles of crap, I Hear Black by Overkill is really bad. Which is really weird, because Overkill is notoriously consistent.
Yeah. Like they have so many great albums in a row.
They have, at this point...
Gym after gym after gym.
Yeah, at this point they have, 278 albums.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of them are good, consistent, New York-style street thrash. It's very to the streets. It's very gritty. It's very rough. It's very raw. It's very dirty. I Hear Black was a commercial weird thing. I don't even know what. I couldn't tell you a song off of it because I listened to it twice and was like, I'm never touching this again.
Yeah, Bobby Blitz and Dee Dee Verney can do better than that.
Yeah,
sure.
when I hear it, a new Overkill album coming out. Oh, cool. Let's check it out. This isn't what I'm looking for. That's not good.
I don't want to hear Black. I don't want to hear Black.
That's not what we're looking for.
Yeah. I Hear Black is something you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we have Morbid Angel, one of my favorite death metal bands. Elude Dividum Insanus is definitely the Saint Anger of death metal. Yeah. What did I just hear? What was my thought? When I first put this album in, I was like, is this a joke? I mean, not only does it not sound like Morbid Angel, it doesn't sound like death metal. I can understand a band wanting to experiment a little bit, wanting to branch out, change their sound, change their style, and to not seem generic. Yeah, David Vincent. But this was just garbage. I mean, this album was rubbish. It was so ridiculous. It's so many stupid songs. Killer Cult, Killer Cult. Too extreme is one of the titles. Too Extreme,
Too
Beauty Meets
Extreme.
Beast. Who came up with these song titles?
It's like Harold and Kumar. It's like, oh, Extreme, Cheddar. That's this album.
It's like they ran out of time to write the song, and then so they gave it to the janitor in the music studio, and then he didn't think it was that good, so he gave it to his 5-year-old son, who wrote it, and his son thought, this is pretty crappy, but let's just release it anyway. The lyrics are terrible.
It's awful.
The arrangements are terrible. Trey Edsick, though, is my second favorite death metal guitarist next to Chuck Schuldiner.
He can do better.
Way better than that. I expect way better.
He is a god among men. Of living death metal guitarists, he's the best. He's the man. Because Chuck was the best of all. Chuck's the best of all time. Oh, yeah. But sadly, Chuck passed.
By far.
So Trey is the current
best.
Best at writing death metal.
He's like the Tony Iommi of death metal.
Essentially. But what is this? Like, why is this a thing?
Yeah. Why does this exist?
Now, that being said, I'm looking forward to their new album. I hope
they got Steve Tucker back.
Steve Tucker's back. I'm hoping to return to the amazing death metal form. From what I've heard so far, it's sounding like we're going to get that.
Good.
I hope. We need to get away from Elude.
It'll definitely be an improvement over Elude. I know that much.
We need to get away from it as quick as possible.
Yeah, and the thing is, David Vincent was irreplaceable in their first 3 albums, Altars, Blessed, and Covenant. And the thing is, I still respect the man for what he accomplished with them, but he's not who he once was. He's just, oh my gosh. He was in that band Genitorturers or Genital Wars or whatever it's like. Now he's doing a country band, and he's just not who he was anymore. I mean, that's fine. To each their own. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But don't try to do Morbid Angel again, because it was a disaster.
So another band that we love. And I mean adore this band. Did adore this band. Would be Sepultura. Sepultura is incredible. Well, they were incredible when they had Max Cavalera. All right, first
anything after Max Cavalera.
Let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
When Max Cavalera left Sepultura,
the band died.
I know people are like, oh, the new stuff's pretty good. No. Maybe if they would change their name, I would give it a shot.
It's not Sepultura anymore. They got Derek Green now, who's one of the most generic, most boring vocalists I've ever heard. I mean, if he was in another band, it might be tolerable, but don't call it Sepultura. Sepultura was the brainchild of Max Cavalera.
You can't follow him. He is incredible. He is a living legend. You can't follow that.
It'd be like having Megadeth without Dave Mustaine.
Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It wouldn't make any sense at all. And that's basically what happened, but that's not what we're going to talk about.
So everything after the Max Cavalera era is crap, and we don't even count it. We're not even going to talk about it because it's not worth talking about.
From the Max Cavalera era, we're going to go ahead, we're going to say it. All right, first off, beforehand, I know this album is influential. This album is highly influential. But it's not a good album, man. It's Roots.
It sounds very new metal, not very thrashy.
It basically inspired all the new metal.
It sounds more like Soulfly, which was Cavalera's next project.
Yeah, but
Sepultura.
It's uninspired. It's got a lot of rap influence, which is fine. If you want to do that, I guess do your thing. But it didn't fit with Sepultura.
Not at all.
It inspired a lot of bands. A lot of bands heard Roots and were like, you know what, I want to do that. And they came out and made bands that inspired more people. So I mean, it had its influences. But in my opinion, it's not a good album. I do not like it one bit. There's not a single song on Roots that I like, which is saying a lot because every album that they did before this, I adore to the fullest.
Me too.
I completely love every album before this. And then coming from Chaos AD to this is just weird. It's really weird.
Morbid Vision, Schizophrenia, Beneath the Remains, Chaos AD, Arise. They're all amazing.
But Roots, I can't do it, man. I can't. It's all it's one of those jump up and down things at the concert. When you see him live and he's like, all right, jump. It's one of those, and I don't do the jump thing.
No.
Let's have a pit instead. Let's do that. So, another amazing thrash band that we all love, Slayer. They've been very consistent. You know what you're going to get from a Slayer album every time.
The usual, the really fun, kind of more sloppy, unstructured solos that consist of a lot of wind, really highly creative and inspirational riffs, very inspired satanic lyrics with a very dark theme, excellent drumming from either Dave Lombardo or Paul Bostaff, who I think is good,
awesome,
and some really creative riffs from Jeff Hanneman and Kerry King, and some awesome, usually good vocals from Tom Araya, although I think his performance these days is a little
I still
something
love
to be
it.
desired. I still wouldn't want anybody else singing for them. I still wouldn't want anybody else other than Araya.
So that being said,
it was hard to pick a worst.
We were discussing. We're like, what's the worst? Yeah. And I think we kind of landed on Diabolus and Musica. Yeah. That's where that album falls. How do you feel about this album?
Meh.
It exists. It's
Divine Intervention had Ditto Head.
Ditto
right?
Head.
So.
Yeah, because Divine Intervention was going to be our choice. But the fact that Ditto Head even exists makes that a okay album.
It makes up for it.
Because that song is awesome. But Diablos and Musica has like Stain of Mind and Screaming from the Sky. That's pretty much the only good songs on that album. In my opinion, the rest of it, it's very filler. It's
Undisputed Attitude doesn't count.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But like Diablos and Musica, it feels like a filler album. It's
Big
like
time.
it's like they were like, well, we got to put out an album. We don't need songs written, so let's just kind of throw some stuff together.
It's forgettable. It's
Yeah,
just forgettable.
it's totally
generic.
forgettable.
Like I know Slayer is kind of repetitive. I still love them, but they kind of do kind of the same patterns over and over. But this was like too generic even for Slayer.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. It's wholly forgettable.
All right, for probably the final album we're going to talk about is a very similar situation to Sepultura. That we both agree that this band died when their vocalist left, and that's Cryptopsy. And the thing is, their first two albums, Blasphemy Made Flesh and None So Vile, are incredible. Two of my favorite death metal.
Those two albums are death metal to the highest degree. They are two of the most fine death metal albums ever written, ever performed. If you haven't listened to them, who are you? First of all, who are you? Second of all, go listen to them.
Yeah, Lord Worm's performance was incredible.
My God,
those
so
indecipherable,
good.
brutal vocals, just like it's like wow, like what is he even saying? He sounds so inhuman. And the thing is, he left after that band. Then the drummer Flo Monier, I guess that's how you pronounce it. He's like the Lars Ulrich of death metal. He took over the band and he took him in like an almost like metalcore, like almost rap metal direction.
They became deathcore for a while.
They're terrible. They've had terrible vocalists like Matt McGatchy and Mike DeSalvo who, my gosh, these people couldn't hold a candle to Lord Worm. They couldn't bring him water, like on the stage. And Lord Worm did return for one album. It was either The Unspoken King or Once Was Not. I can't remember which one it was because I don't care. They're both terrible. One of them had Lord Worm on it. The guitarist John Lavassier was absent, but that album wasn't good either. And like pretty much everything after Lord Worm left is crap. I don't recommend it at all. I suggest you skip it. Listen to the first two, and then you're done.
Yeah, and then after that, you got everything you need to know about Cryptopsy. Because their first two albums, they are top-notch, high-quality death metal. Yeah. And you need to listen to them. But after that, the band died with more.
After that, that's it. I only consider them having two albums. I think it's a different band after that.
Yeah. I mean, you can't become deathcore and still be a legendary death metal band.
Yeah. Oh my god, Cryptopsy death. It makes me shudder. All right, well, I guess we should wrap it up. There's probably a lot of ones we forgot, but like, if there's any ones we didn't mention, chances are they're so bad they're not even worth mentioning. There's bands like like Iced Earth and Halloween, who I know have worse albums, but I don't really.
Yeah, not familiar enough because the things I've listened to have all been really good.
Yeah, I love them, but I don't really know enough about them to really pick which one's the worst. They have a lot of great albums, and they have some that aren't as good. But I'm not really gonna.
Absolutely, and something we didn't mention deeply at the beginning that I think we should mention now is, again, we are doing a Q&A video coming up, so make sure to leave your questions down below. Doesn't matter if you've asked something before, you can ask a new question.
As many as you want.
Yep, we're just trying to gather as many questions as possible to make a nice, entertaining video for you guys. I think it'd be a fun thing to do, so we're trying to get that going as soon as possible. Absolutely. But as always, guys, I've been Dr. Gutts.
I'm Hellhound.
Keep it metal.